Okay. So today we are discussing how cancer develops. As always, I will start with a presentation and then the meetup will be open for questions and discussion. Just a reminder, this meetup Zoom session is being recorded and later will be uploaded on my YouTube channel. So the link of which has already been shared in the meetup chat. I will share it again. So in today's talk, we will follow the journey of a normal cell that becomes rebel and leads to cancer development. Then we will touch upon the types of cancer, what are the major causes of cancer, and how cancer can be prevented. And stick to the end to learn about the early signs and self-examination guide for different cancers. I promise to make it all clear and accessible, regardless of whether or not you have a scientific background. So, before that, let me introduce myself. I am a cancer immunologist. I also write 2 newsletters, details of which are given here. And recently, I've started a science book meetup. And this month, we are discussing Healthy Brain, Happy Life, which is on January 27th. If you are interested, you can join there. It will be an online event. So, now let's get to cancer. So, can I request everyone to please mute themselves? Or, yeah, okay. So, cancer is among the leading causes of death worldwide. According to American Cancer Society, 1 out of every 2 men and 1 out of every 3 women will develop cancer during their lifetime. And by 2040, the numbers of new cases of cancer will increase, along with the number of cancer related deaths. So, what is cancer? Cancer is a disease that begins when a single cell among all the trillions in a human body begins to grow out of control. So, cell growth is the secret of living, the source of our ability to build, adapt, repair ourselves. And cancer cells are rebels among our own cells that outrace the rest. Normal tissues carefully control the production and release of growth promoting signals, thereby ensuring a homeostasis. So, you have heard this word before in many of my talks, homeostasis. Homeostasis is just a balance of things. So, normal tissues, they release growth inducing factors to maintain this balance. And sometimes, when a cell gets damaged and the DNA repair cannot be done, the uh, body initiates a cell suicide response and there will be a cell death. But in case of cancer, uh, the growth promoting signals are deregulated and it takes control of the cell suicide pathway and it becomes the master of its own destiny. So, what I mean is, let's understand this through different stages. So, the journey of a normal cell to a rebel cancer cell begins with a mutation or a glitch. This mutation in a cell begins with DNA damage. So, DNA is the code of life. It is the hereditary material which carries genetic instructions for the development, functioning, growth, and reproduction of all known organisms. So, this damage to DNA can happen either due to endogenous, that is, factors, internal factors like replication stress, because when the cells are replicating, there can be a little glitch in the replication, which the system has ability to correct it. But sometimes it uh, it just goes from that mm, check. So it is not checked. So some replication errors happens, cell metabolism or oxygen radicals. So these are the factors, some of the factors which are internally affecting the DNA damage. And then there are exogenous cues, like from exogenous means from the external factors, like ultraviolet radiation or some kind of viral infections or carcinogenic chemicals which are present in the tobacco smoke or, for example, alpha toxin or chemotherapy. So substances which causes cancer are called carcinogens. So in general, cells in the body are exposed to DNA damage on regular basis, but these damages are kept in check through DNA surveillance machinery and DNA damage repair machinery. So we have 2 different machinery in our body which always keeps check of these damages which happens. But only once these two doesn't perform their job, DNA damage is registered in the cell, which leads to a mutation or a glitch in the DNA. It is important to understand that single mutation is not responsible for initiation of cancer or uncontrolled cell growth. So a cell is susceptible carrier after first mutation. A progressive series of alteration or the mutation leads to initiation of cancer, and then the single cell with accumulated alterations begin to proliferate abnormally. So basically, to understand this, I've simplistically shown this figure, which you can see. We have two important genes in our system. The number one is called the tumor suppressor genes. As the name suggests, these genes are the gatekeepers and caretakers. So they will suppress the tumor growth and they will keep the normal proliferative machinery in check. And the other genes are proto-oncogenes. So proto-oncogenes, as the name suggests, they are oncogenic. But in our system, they are present in a inactive state or in a dominant state. But when a mutation happens in one of these genes, like first the mutation happened in your tumor suppressor gene. So this system goes like now there is no system to check the tumor growth. The second mutation happens in your proto-oncogene and it gets converted into oncogene. Oncogenes means tumor promoting genes. So these two genes are favoring tumor promotion. And when the mutation happens in these two genes, then a cell gets uncontrolled and it starts proliferating uncontrollably, and there are no checks or gates to control it. Then too, there are controlled by an immune system in early stages, but as the cancer develops, it can evade the defense system of our body too. We will discuss about this as we go and follow the journey of this cell. So this is the first stage where the mutation is happening. So as we know, the cancer incidence increases with age. Why it happens? Because as we are aging, the cell repair machinery or this check machinery is getting also old. And so some of the DNA glitches or the replication errors are not detected, and you are being exposed to UV for quite long time. And that's why the cancer incidence increases with age. Just an example, for colorectal cancer, which is the cancer of colon and rectum, so the incidence of this cancer increases tenfold once you reach 30, and then another tenfold when you turn 50. So it's an aging disorder, if you can understand this in a way. Okay, so this is a multi-step alteration which leads to cancer. Now, according to this, the larger an animal is and the longer it lives, the more likely it is to develop cancer, as we understood. This is because when cells multiply, they have a chance of malfunctioning and becoming a cancerous growth. So the larger an animal is, the more cells it has. The more cells that are replicating, the more of a chance it has of getting cancer. But when scientists study cancer, they learn that this is not what is happening in some animals, and which is called Peto's paradox. So according to this figure, you can see that here this is a mouse, and here we are humans, according to the lifespan and body mass, and then elephants and humpback whale. But the cancer incidence rates are actually higher in humans when compared to elephants. Then what is happening? Because elephants are much bigger in size, they have larger number of cells, and even they are living longer. So it was known that the tumor suppressor gene, which I talked about earlier, we have only one copy and elephants have 20 copies. So they are being protected by this tumor by 20-fold as us. And similarly, it happens with the humpback whale. They have different mechanisms of developing resistance. They are actually immune to cancer. So they have evolved in this way. So this is the way like how we can understand the cancer and develop uh, different mechanisms, different drugs to treat cancer. So now this is the second stage of cancer development. So in simple terms, cancer is when cells do not cooperate. So cells usually work as a whole, but sometimes one cell breaks off and becomes a cancer cell. So we saw the mutation happened and it became a cancer cell. That cell only works for its own benefit and just tries to grow larger. So, however, to grow larger, it needs resources. So, the cells tricks the body and makes the body grow blood vessels so that the tumor has lots of food. So, tumor is very intelligent. A single cancer cell is very intelligent to find its own resources. So, this cancer cells will start multiplying. And if it happens too fast, sometimes a cancer cell can break off from the original tumor and starts its own tumor. So, uh, understanding this fact, so it's dividing rapidly, it's forming big. So once it's growing, it needs resources to grow. And this is how this is when angiogenesis occur. So angiogenesis is simply the growth of new blood vessels that tumors need to grow. So in this figure, this is your proliferating cell. So from a single cell, with the rapid proliferation and no cell death happening, there will be a lump of cells. Now this cell has to grow further. So this is just like few millimeters in size. Now this cell has to grow further. To grow, it needs resources. So it needs blood vessels. So in our body, we have uh, normal development of new blood vessels to repair. And this is the normal mechanism which every cell, whenever you get an injury and to repair that particular thing, the new blood vessels will grow there and give all the resources, and that particular tissue or particular damage will heal. So this is the normal mechanism, and there are a lot of factors involved, a lot of signaling happening in the body. Cancer cell is so intelligent, it takes away, it hijacks that normal angiogenic signaling pathway and it utilizes for its own favor. So if the cell wants to grow, if this tissue wants to grow in size, it has this, it needs this blood supply. Otherwise, the inside of the tumor will die and that will form a necrotic area. But the cell needs that blood circulation, which will bring all the oxygen and the nutrients, and it will be a feeding site for the tumor. So tumor releases all these factors, uh, which is like VGF, to name a few. It will release these factors and the blood vessels will grow inside the tumor. It also tricks the adjoining cells to do the same function for itself. So this is very interesting how the tumor uses all the other cells to work for it. And then the resulting new blood vessels will feed the growing tumor with oxygen and nutrients, allowing the tumor to enlarge and the cancer cells to invade nearby tissue and to move throughout the body and to form a new colonies of cancer cells. This process is known as metastasis, and it starts with invasion. So we saw mutation, uncontrolled growth, lack of cell death, and then angiogenesis, formation of new blood vessels. Now these blood vessels will provide another important stage for that cancer growth, which is invasion and metastasis. This figure explains it well. So these are the blood vessels. Here are the tumor cells. The tumor cells from this whole, now the tumor is growing. So few cells which have more adaptability, they will grow out from the tumor. So this single cell will find a way. So this is a blood vessel in center. This is your blood vessel. So this tumor cell will find a way and will invade the blood vessel. So this is the where this figure, this cell is showing. This cell is going inside uh, the blood periphery, the artery. So this cell is going inside the artery and surviving the circulation. So in nature, in the normal state, no single cell can survive on its own in circulation. It will die. A cell needs an anchorage. A cell needs attachment. But without attachment, a cell will die. But the cancer cells have an ability to survive without attachment. So these cells will happily move in the circulation and find another site where they will stick and they will grow again. They will repeat the same process again of proliferation, angiogenesis, and again they will start metastasizing. So this is how this is the three stages of cancer development. So metastasis is the hallmark of cancer that is responsible for the greatest number of cancer related deaths. Till the cancer is not metastasizing, it is easy to cure. Not so easy, but it is still curable, and a person can go into remission and can be cancer free for long. But once the cancer has metastasized, it is very difficult to treat cancer because there will be micrometastatic sites, which are undetectable on the scans, and you cannot operate the whole body and see where the cancer is. So that's why it is very difficult. And it's said that early detection of cancer is the only 100% cure for it. So when it goes and finds the appropriate site for metastasizing, how this happens? So this can be explained by the seed and the soil theory. So if you can understand, seed is your metastasizing cancer cell. This single cancer cell or the few cancer cells, maybe less than 100, which have left the primary site, and they have swimmed the circulatory system, and they are finding a new home for them. So that is the soil. New home is the soil. So if the soil is nutritious, then only the seed can grow. So how a particular cancer cell will know which particular soil is good for it? It depends on many factors. It depends on the characteristics of the seed, the primary site from which the cancer cell is coming, and it also depends on the characteristics of the soil. So generally, if you have heard like few cancers, they will just go to the lung, or if the cancer is in breast, it will go into your bones. If the cancer is in the lung, it will go to the nearest primary site, the nearest secondary site. So every primary site cancer has a specific location of metastasizing. So this depends upon the seed and soil theory, which was given by this famous scientist Paget. For a time being, this theory was neglected, but now this theory has come back, and people are taking this into consideration. So many more factors are responsible, but this is the main thing. Like many factors, like I'm not going through the detailed science of it, but as you can see from the figure, there are many different factors which determine, like from in the lungs, what all factors will determine whether a cancer cell will reside in the lung or liver or bones or your brain. So after this secondary metastasis, the tumor can grow from this site to a third site. This also can happen if the tumor is undetected for a long time, and then it is called multi-metastasis condition. So okay, so this happens, eventual colonization will happen, and the cancer will happily grow in the secondary site, and the same process will start again. So to sum up this journey of cancer development, these are the hallmarks of cancer, which were suggested by Henehan and Weinberg in 2011. And now recently they have added 4 more factors which determine the hallmarks of cancer. So as we have seen that they sustain proliferative signaling, they evade growth suppressor. So no cell death happening, no cell suicide pathway, only cell replication. They will activate the invasion and metastasis. They will enable replicative immortality. So that means they are all the replication stress that's not being registered. And the initial cancer cell only has, for example, two mutations. After a while, the new cancer colony has multiple mutations and many more new mutations because of this, because it's not registering the mutation and not correcting it. It's for its own benefit, and that's why a cancer cell is not composed of that tumor. The group of cells are not similar cells, so they are very different looking cells. They are actually, we can simply call that tumor an organ because it has more than 100 different types of cells. It has its own immune system. It has its own stromal cells. Stromal cells gives the architecture to that particular tissue, particular organ. So it has all that internal tumor microenvironment which is supporting it. So it's like a organ itself. So it will induce angiogenesis and all that. We discussed about this. So in this figure, you can see what I was talking about. It is composed of many different types of cells. And that's why it is difficult to treat cancer, because first of all, it is very similar to your original normal cell. It is keeping all that normal cell identity intact because it wants to get evaded by the immune system. It doesn't want to be detected by the immune system, and our immune cells have an ability to detect normal cell, to differentiate between a normal cell and an infected or an invader cell. So that ability our immune system has. This ability gets disabled in autoimmune diseases, but in normal conditions, our immune system is very actively can differentiate between a normal and an infected cell. But these tumor cells are so intelligent that they keep all that normal cells identity intact, but internally all that what is going is in favor of that proliferative potential and giving all that additional qualities for that particular cell to survive. So, in short, we can say cancer is a hyperactive, survival endowed, scrappy, fecund, inventive copies of ourselves. So, it's a very intelligent machinery which is happening inside. So, this is just a timeline. Same thing which I discussed, a transformative event will happen, then it will be dormant until it goes into that angiogenic switch. It will grow in size, and then approximately after 30 doublings, it will disseminate in the circulatory system, goes into a different site, metastasize, then form the secondary tumors. So this is all the journey of a cancer cell. Now let's understand different types of cancer. There are at least 100 different types of cancer, depending upon where the cancer is growing. And according to Global Cancer Observatory, lung and prostate cancer in males, whereas breast and lung cancer in females are among the top two cancers with increasing incidence of new cancers registered worldwide. And lung and colorectal cancers are the leading causes of mortality in 2020 in both sexes and in all ages. And depending upon, like, cancer can be categorized into three groups depending upon which particular cell type is malfunctioned. So it is carcinomas, sarcomas, and leukemia, lymphoma. So carcinoma is when it happens in the epithelial cell. So epithelial cell is the major cell in our body. It is present in our skin. It is found in our blood vessels. It is found in our organs, including urinary tract. So it is actually 90% of the human cancers are carcinoma because of this reason. Then we have sarcoma, which are solid tumors of connective tissue, such as muscle, bone, cartilage, fibrous tissue. They are actually rare in humans and very difficult to treat. Then is leukemia and lymphoma, which arises from blood forming cells of the immune system. So it comprises 8% of human cancers. For leukemia and lymphoma, we have a lot of treatment and recently developed CAR T therapy and immunotherapy. They work well for leukemia and lymphomas, but still we don't have a lot of good treatments for metastatic or recurrent relapsed solid tumors. So if initial stages, we can still treat, but for the recurrent and relapsed or the cancers which has already gone through 4 or 5 cycles of chemotherapy and still resistant, then for that cancer category for solid tumors, CAR T therapy is still not developed. There are no advanced treatments. There are certain targeted therapies for solid tumors, but not for all different categories. So this is um excerpt from Siddharth Mukherjee's book, Emperor of All Melodies. If you are interested to read further, you can read this book. It's a very well written book, and in a simple language, he has explained the whole evolution of cancer, uh, cancer treatment, whole evolution of cancer treatment, and cancer research. So it's a very interesting book to read. So now what causes cancer? So one of the thing is getting older, as I told, like we discussed about this, the the cells are multiplying, replication errors happening, and many other factors. And then smoking is number one treatable cause. So and not protecting yourself from sun exposure to UV, having certain genetic changes. So genetic changes are one of the major factors for some genetic related cancers, not all. And being overweight and obese, being overweight or obese, not having a healthy diet, these two were uh, not actually recognized well before, but they are very important factors which can be modified. Not getting enough physical activity, drinking alcohol, coming into contact with harmful chemicals. This is work related. If someone is working in carcinogenic environment, so having certain kinds of infection, which is HPV related infections, or stress also has an indirect link to cancer. It's not a direct cause, but it it affects indirectly. So now let's talk about how many cancers can be prevented. Decades of research have shown that a person's chance of getting cancer depends on a mismatch of their genes and their environment, but also certain aspects of their lives, many of which we can control. And there are like 16 factors, no, 14 lifestyle and environmental risk factors which can be controlled. Um, as discussed, tobacco, overweight, low fruit and vegetable diet is one of the factor. So you should have a high fiber, low fat diet. Alcohol avoid, occupation is one of the thing. If you are in a very carcinogenic environment like asbestos or coal mining or something like that, then to avoid infections or have vaccines for it. And then radiation, if you are out in sun, have sunlight, sunscreen protection. And these are all the factors. If you want to read in detail, you can go to Cancer Research UK site. They have a paper link to it, which is a 90-page report actually describing in detail about all the factors and how it affects different cancer. And this is just a sum up of that. So now what are the key signs and symptoms of cancer? So this actually this figure gives you little bit a snapshot of the signs which you can look for. So this is not directly related to cancer only. These The problem with cancer signs are that they overlap with many other different diseases, and that's why for sure shot you will never know that these signs are the ones you should look for, and this is the signs you're telling you that you have cancer. But uh, if you know your baseline health, if you know your baseline lab work, then you are much more prepared when you see these signs. when you see unusual appetite loss, or when you see persistent bloating, or when you see persistent heartburn or indigestion, these are actually not telling you that you have cancer. To be like honest with you, like and not to fear you with these, that these are not the signs of cancer to say, but these are signs which can tell you that something unusual is going. So if this is not like being corrected itself, your body is not correcting itself in 48 hours. Like, what is your normal baseline? If you get a cold, how many days it takes for your body to heal itself? You should know about these details. Like, you should catalog these details in your mind, or if you forget, then in a diary, to understand how your immune system reacts to things. So if sometimes your fever is not going, it's persisting for 1 week or more than week, and you don't know a valid reason for having that fever, so you should go and check yourself with a doctor. And a doctor will have a list of things to check. Where they always have a checklist. If certain things are not matching, and two or more factors are suggesting towards it's maybe a malignancy, then the doctor will give you certain tests to do. But this is just a thing to understand, like, that if you will not know which signs or symptoms to look for, you will never know, like you will just ignore that thing. So this is a good slide, and um, I will upload it, and so you have that database. So yeah, these are the signs and symptoms to look for. Unusual signs and symptoms which can lead you to different unusual thing happening in your body. And if you have certain of these, if you have these symptoms and signs in your body, you can go to these genetic risk assessment or cancer risk assessment sites. Every government has this. So every cancer research site has this on their website. So whichever you are comfortable with, you can go there, and they have a questionnaire, and you can answer that, and you will get a rough idea of the thing which is happening. So information is power, as I say. So now we are going into the third phase of the meetup, which will give you the self-examination guideline, how you can do at home. So, early detection and the proper treatment of cancer has a high cure rate of almost 100%. So, for breast self exam, this is how you can follow. I will not go through the details of this, but this I will be there. If you want, you can take a screenshot, you can take a photo of this, and this can be easily done at home once in a month. So, this is for the prostate exam. So, as people grow old, the chances of cancer increases. So it's important to have self-examination. And if you see something inconsistent, and go to your GP, ask for further diagnostics. This is for oral self-exam, which can be easily done. And leading causes of oral cancer, as we mentioned before, are tobacco, smoking, alcohol, and then some kind of viruses, sun exposure, weakened immune system, which can happen due to many different reasons, and stress is one of that. And then a diet which is lacking fruits and vegetables, and it's rich in processed meats and high salt. So all these are the reasons. So, oral cancer will include a cancer of the lips, tongue, cheek, throat, and sinuses. And then is the skin cancer self exam. So, the people we are living in uh, the northern hemisphere, and so the sun is directly coming to us, and so UV protection is very important. So, this is the ABCDE of the melanoma, which is the asymmetry, border, color, diameter, and whether it is evolving or not. And then the ovarian cancer self exam. So, this is something which is you cannot like do checkup on the from the exterior. So you have to note for these signs like abdominal bloating or indigestion, persistent. It doesn't mean like 1 or 2 day, like you ate something or then the abdominal bloating happens. It doesn't mean that. It means that for a longer period you are having this kind of the symptom. And tiredness, low energy, changes in menstruation, so all these factors will point you towards something unusual happening in your ovaries or your endometrium. And then the pancreatic cancer self exam. So just to sum up, listen to your body. It constantly gives signs about its health. If you know your baseline healthy symptoms, you will not miss slight changes which occur when any disease initiates. But don't go crazy about this. Your body has its own checks and balances. Give it few days to heal itself. If it doesn't heal, then it's time to check with a doctor. With this, I will end the presentation.